going to do illustrating with just 3 lines with Paradise Lost to show you how much your education was missing. And it's not an insult, it's not your fault. Over the last century or so, we've done a good job at tearing apart and isolating all of our disciplines, speaking especially of our liberal arts, and also making mention to our tradition that we had through cosmology and mythology. And so it's really only when you have all these things working together, supporting and feeding into each other, only then are you able to receive the fullness of just 3 lines of poetry, to say nothing of the rest of the world. And I think these 3 lines are going to do that beautifully. What areas of education am I looking at right now? I'm going to be looking at astronomy, and by that I mean, can you find your way using the stars at night, or tell what time it is, because you can recognize them and understand the basic laws that they follow. Number 2, mythology. Do you know the stories behind why those stars got placed where they are? And number 3, from the mythology, astrology. Do you know what those stars are saying to you? And I'm not saying, Mercury is in retrograde, as they have an influence on your life. I'm saying, based off their mythology, the stars speak. Can you understand what they're saying to you? So, story time. You should all have this. This is 3 lines, lines 325 through 329 of Paradise Lost. And this is book 10, just after Adam and Eve have fallen. And so sin and death are here entering the world. And you think I don't have the paper. And now their way to earth they had described, to paradise first tending, when behold, Satan in likeness of an angel, bright betwixt the centaur and the scorpion, steering his zenith, while the sun in Aries rose. I think that's right. So we're going to focus on those last 3 lines because Milton in them has just casually transmitted a metric ton of our tradition. How dare he? So, what do we have going on here? We have Satan shining like an angel between the centaur and the scorpion while the sun rises in Aries. Can everybody picture in your mind's eye this image of the sky that Milton has made? Do you see where everything sits in the sky right now? It's fine if you don't. Can anybody real quick just tell me, what time is it? What time is it? What's the sun doing? It's rising. It is sunrise. It is dawn. Dawn is broken. So there's a lot more that you can read in there, and I'm going to show you how. So what can we read? Well, we have 4 astronomical points of reference here: the centaur, the scorpion, Aries, and the sun. So this first 3 are 3 of the modern 88 constellations. We still use them in astronomy today, but they're also 3 of the Western zodiac constellations, and I'm going to go into the mythology behind them from most complex to least complex. Complexity number 1 is the centaur. So that's Sagittarius, and we know this because Milton relies heavily on the Western zodiac throughout the poem to position both characters and time. So there's no reason for him to deviate from that. The other reason we know it's the centaur is because we have come to understand Sagittarius in recent centuries as a centaur. He has the myth of Chiron, the great centaur physician, placed onto him. But this is where the complication and the confusion comes in, because we already have the constellation Centaurus in the sky, and that already has the myth of Chiron. And so there's a couple reasons why it's definitely not Centaurus. It's not Centaurus because A, that's a southern hemisphere constellation, and being a northern hemisphere man, there's no reason for him to talk about it. He also has a northern hemisphere audience. The other reason I'm going to get into later, so Sagittarius is not Chiron. He's known as Chiron because it's a more popular myth, and Chiron is also known as a good hunter with a bow, and Sagittarius across all cultures is known primarily as an archer. But the other myth that's less well known, that fits better, that was already associated with Sagittarius, is the myth of Crotus. Crotus is the son of the god Pan and the muse's nurse, Epheme. So he is a satyr, half man, half goat. And for his myth, the important thing is that A, he invented the bow because he is a very good hunter. So of course, Sagittarius, the archer. The other thing is he invented applause or rhythmic clapping specifically as praise for the muses. And that's why they requested he be placed in the stars. So praise, satyr, bow, and a bow notably is not just for hunting, it's also an artifice of war. And I want you to remember these things as we make the sky. So that's south. You have to be looking south to see them. East, west. Woo. So now, if we know the sun is rising over here with Aries, it rises in the east, everybody, I hope you know that. Sagittarius would be somewhere around there. Great, Sagittarius. Now, number 2, the Scorpion. The Scorpion, luckily there's only one of those in the sky. So that is Scorpius, but to talk about Scorpius, we have to talk about Orion. So Orion was also a great hunter. There's so many of them. And he, however, boasted that he could kill any animal. No beast was safe from his weapons. And this act of hubris enrages a goddess, and it's typically Gaia or Artemis or Hera. Sometimes it's Apollo, but a goddess enraged decides to create Scorpius to go after Orion. And every last one of his weapons fails him. He has to flee on and on and on. And eventually, Scorpius stings him in the heel fatally, but Zeus takes pity on him. However, because there's an angry goddess involved, he also has to do something with Scorpion. So he puts them both into the stars, but at opposite ends of the sky. So Orion is safe, but forever being pursued. And if Sagittarius is here, and you know your stars, which I know you do, Scorpius would be right about here. Oh, this has to be red. Duh, that's why I needed this. Don't let me forget that. I'm going to come back. Now, if Scorpius is here, and we have at the opposite end of the sky would be Orion with his little belt, right? There, gorgeous. Now, number 3, Aries. The easiest myth. Once upon a time, the king Athamas married the cloud nymph Nephele, and they had a boy and a girl. But then he decides to leave her to marry Ino instead. But the evil stepmother decides to kill the kids. So Nephele creates a flying golden ram and sends it to save the children. It swoops down, saves them, delivers them safely home, and they decide to sacrifice the ram as thanks to the gods. Not the best deal, but it's the Greeks. What are you going to do? So this fun fact is also where we get the golden fleece from Jason and the Argonauts, from the golden ram. The gods decide to immortalize this ram in the stars, and so we get Aries. And we also know the sun is rising in Aries. Gorgeous. The sun is associated with the archangel Uriel, another important character in the story. And we know that Satan is shining like an angel between these two fellas. We have the sky. There's more. Ask me about that later. But what do we have here? What has Milton done? Well, aside from tell us that the sun is rising, he has kind of set these two camps, hasn't he? So we have over here the sun, the ram, this hubristic hunter who has been stung, bruised, wounded in his heel, you could say, given grace by the gods with distance, but forever being pursued, not unlike Adam. And of course, bruise his head, bruise your heel. Now, over here we have another great hunter with Sagittarius, but notably a satyr, a very sort of satanic imagery for us here in the West, and one who has invented an artifice of war, one who is also associated with praise. And next to him, a great pursuer, the hunter of the hunter. And this is where Satan has found himself. This is who he is. This is what he wants. But the other thing Milton has done visually is if the sun is rising and Satan is shining in the west, he's made Satan into the morning star, a common name for him in the Bible. And for those of you who know, the morning star is Venus. And so it's the most beautiful in the sky, but only fleetingly so in the dawn and dusk. This is the other reason why it cannot be Centaurus that we're referring to, because Venus, like the rest of the planets traveling on the ecliptic, will never pass between Scorpius and Centaurus down here. It must be Sagittarius. Now, last little guy that I have to talk about, the little red fella, is actually a red supergiant in Scorpius, known as Antares, as in the god Ares. It's commonly mistaken for Mars in the summertime, so it translates not Ares, so it's also not Mars, it's a false god, but it's also the enemy of Ares, or the enemy of Mars, therefore adversary. But if it's the enemy of Mars, it is also the enemy of Aries, the ram, because if you know your astrology, Mars is the ruling planet of Aries. And so there's a lot of similar associations happening here. Mars, for the Romans at least, is more of a protector, a father figure. He's the father of Romulus and Remus, of course. And in more ancient times, he is associated with agriculture and fertility. So Aries has all that mixed up into their, Mars, we also get the month of March from Mars. So, back to the question that I asked at the beginning. If the sun is rising in Aries, a symbol of agriculture and fertility that the sun rises in at end of March, beginning of April, March, April, agriculture, what time is it? Springtime. Yes, springtime, fabulous. And so what has Milton done here? Well, the earth is in bloom. Life is just returning after the winter time, and death has just entered the world as man has fallen in sin and Satan shines, the bright, beautiful, triumphant adversary in the west. But you see, with this, we have just crossed the vernal equinox. Day has just outweighed the night, and so what time is it as the sun rises in a symbol of the protector, the savior, and the sacrifice? March, April, it is Easter time. Death has just entered the world, but with this image, death has also already conquered. As the bruiser of heels, this artificer of war, false god, sets in the west as man is soon to rise out of life, out of death, out of darkness, redeemed back into life and light. And so with this one image in 3 lines, Milton has created an image of everything past, present, and future. An image you miss if you're missing any part of our tradition, from the liberal arts to the mythology and the cosmology. And when you understand these things as we used to, as both liberating and structuring, and how it allows us to encounter, interact with the world, understand our place in it, the role that our minds play in it, then you are able to approach these things not just as past or references to the past, but as lessons. You have the ability with these stories to look back, and in doing so, better understand both where you are and where you're going. And then the world starts to open up to you, everything from your literature to your skies. And so I encourage everybody here, especially here at a closing, to continue exploring these intricacies of your past, things that we have sort of torn apart from our education, so that you can better navigate your way forward, even in the dark. And that is my talk.
We have time for several questions.
Thank you so much. This was so awesome. I literally got chills when you said the bit about the sun, like death is already conquered. This is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. My question is, where did you learn this, and where can we go to learn more, specifically about astronomy and its connection with all of this? Because I've always loved astronomy. I never learned any of this.
That's an excellent question. I learned all of this on accident. I accidentally gave myself a liberal education, partly through my family. My grandmother taught me a lot about stars and astrology, just like passingly. She gave me a book of constellations that made absolutely no sense to me. I could see the pictures and everything, and that was great. But it's just, a lot of it came from family trying to cultivate that in me. And the rest of it sort of came from already a love of both science and literature. I started off in the sciences. I continue to really love them, but I just became more drawn to literature and the humanities. So I think the best way to go about it is, if there's something that catches your eye in the humanities. That if you're reading something that has a reference to something or other, the centaur, the scorpion, all these things, actually figure out what that is, because I've seen notes on Milton that have nothing close to this. They'll reference other things. There's more stuff happening that I could talk about, but it's really interesting to say, well, those things weren't included though. So what is really happening in here? Like what are we looking at? So I think it's the best way to do it is to start following these little rabbit trails that'll take you into mythologies, into cosmologies. And then also just an understanding that all these things for Christians, they're all supposed to be telling you something true. They're put there for a reason by the Greeks, by their gods, but us by God himself, so that you could better understand the world around you. And this is also something that you have to take into consideration. It all has to come together, because the sun now no longer rises in Aries at the equinox. We have the precession of the equinoxes because of the Earth's wobble through space. It now rises in around Pisces. But if you know the mythology behind it, you're still able to place everything in what the story is telling you, in what the sun had been rising in at that time. And then you can then have this connection. So just follow all these little strains. They all connect to each other. It's the liberal arts. Quadrivium, trivium, great. Thank you for dividing it. They all go together. Astronomy needs grammar as much as grammar needs astronomy. And if you keep that in mind, you'll see that they all go together.
Do we have other questions? I guess, oh, yes.
Thank you so much for that wonderful lecture and demonstration. I've always been curious with astrology and astronomy, especially within the Bible. And I have like a hunch about the 12 disciples also being some form of references to the zodiac. Could you speak about that at all, or is there a story, or is there a connection there?
No, I can't.
Okay.
But that sounds very interesting. That would be, I like that very much. But I don't know really anything about those specifically, but I'm sure there is somebody who has done that, because like Isaac Newton was fiddling with alchemy not that long ago. So all these things used to be much more interconnected than they are today. And there must be somebody who has traced all these. I mean, there are people who have traced things like throughout the Americas with these other sort of corruptions of religion, really, where the old gods have mapped onto different saints and things like that. So I'm sure somebody has done that or taken a look at that. So if you want to do that, that'd be a great paper, I'm sure. But I don't personally know about that. Although, like, these coincidences, I don't think are just coincidences. There's a reason, again, all these are placed where they are. And again, there's more that you can talk about, especially over here where Satan is positioned, and the other constellations. But for another time.
Thank you.
Again.
This is great. So with you said that this sort of these astronomical things, that like they weren't really in the notes for Milton. Like, was this something that people at the time reading this would have just sort of been like, oh, that, like, yeah, like, was this sort of just in the water, this knowledge?
I think at the time they would have more of an understanding of these references, because again, there wasn't as much of the, let's say, sort of occultish type things associated with them. It was more a better understanding of how to, and I'm sorry, not better, it was more a way to better understand everything that was around you and how really through Christ and this story, everything was being redeemed. And it was all supposed to be pointing back to it. So when I was looking into this more to see if anybody else had talked about all this, there were references to other associations. There's again much more, but nobody was really getting into this whole like tension that's being raised here. And so I think there's definitely a loss that has taken place in how we see everything being connected.
You got any good book recs? Like working out your learn about my constellations.
Oh my gosh! Well,
Yeah.
I actually just Google it. I just so because this has already just sort of been in my brain since I was a kid. I've always wondered like, oh, I want to know a little bit more about that, or a little bit more about that. And so it's more, like I said, a matter of if something is catching your interest, there's a reason it is, and you should look into it. So one of the reasons I'm talking about Milton is we had a reading group at work, and but nobody knew this. Nobody knew what they were looking at. Nobody knew these constellations, and I think you are sort of in a tough spot because you don't have any of that foundation, and you have to sort of gain it back and build it yourself. And that happens through being curious, but curiously pursuing truth specifically, because it is all trying to lead back to something very true and very important. So I think follow that, and Google it. Google it. If there's somebody talking about constellations, get the book, but I didn't read a book for it. I just sort of started poking around on my own. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Please join me in thanking